Hey everyone, good afternoon, or I guess morning or evening, depending on where you are and you're watching this. I hope you're having a good day. It's Friday, so weekend is coming up. If you get the weekend off, that's awesome. I hope you've got some really great plans. Hope that you've got some good weather going on so you can go outside if it is summer for you. If it is not, well then I hope you stay warm. So I wanted to come on today, and I was thinking a lot recently. I've seen a lot of people posting questions about calorie counting lately. I've been thinking about this, and as a former calorie counter and someone who no longer calorie counts, I feel like I've got a slightly unique perspective on this whole thing. Maybe not so unique because there's probably a lot of us out there, but I wanted to come on here and really kind of clear up some ideas, because I know some people are like, yes, calorie count, calories mean everything. And there are other people who are like, don't even bother, don't touch calorie counting, it's worthless, it's not going to do you any good. So if you're wondering about calorie counting, here's the first tip that I want to give you. Do it if you want to do it, but don't get obsessed. And I talked about that a few days ago, about not getting obsessed with calorie counting and fitness tracking and all of that. So this isn't really what I want to talk about today. I don't want to talk about the obsession. What I do want to talk about is this idea that people have this tendency to ask for an opinion about whether or not calorie counting is good, or anything really, and then there's those people with these really strong opinions about it. So I wanted to clear up some ideas that I had about why you should calorie count, when you should calorie count, and when it's not good to be calorie counting. And also maybe how to stop calorie counting if you are a calorie counter and you feel like you're just completely obsessed with it. So first off, if you calorie count, that's great. If it works for you, that's awesome. I know a lot of people who are at their goal weight and still feel like they need to calorie count in order to maintain their goal weight. That's cool. If you don't calorie count and you're able to just eat whatever, and you've gotten to, if you're trying to lose weight and you've gotten to that weight that you want to be at and you're maintaining and you don't need to calorie count, awesome. I'm a big fan of thumbs up apparently these days. So that's great. Like if you don't have to calorie count, if you don't feel like you need to track everything and you can still be healthy and maintain a weight that you like, that's great. I'm really proud of you. That's a big effort. That's really awesome. So if you're thinking about calorie counting, what you need to know is that calories out, calories in, calories out, I think I said that right, it matters. But not as much as you think it matters. So here's the thing. If you're going to go out and eat some ice cream, or you're going to eat, say, something else that's sweet, so like, let's say a sweet potato. Not quite the same as ice cream, definitely know that, but some nice cream, let's do that. So you blend up some bananas with some flavoring in it versus some ice cream. And I mention ice cream because it's my favorite food, so I will always want to talk about ice cream. Those are two different things. Even if you eat the nice cream, the same amount of calories as the ice cream that you bought at a store, this has processed stuff in it. This has a lot of sugar in it. So when you eat the ice cream, you're getting all this not so great stuff. Whereas if you're eating bananas that are blended, or you can actually use mangoes as the same kind of consistency to get that creaminess, if you use that, you're using a whole food. If you add fruit to it, you're adding a whole food. If you're adding, say, some homemade peanut butter or some all natural peanut butter with no added oils or salt, you're adding just peanuts. That's awesome. If you want to add a little bit of like chocolate, I am down with that big time. I'm always like, I'm like one of the first people to be like, can we add some cacao nibs to that? And I'm talking cacao nibs, like the real chocolate, not like sweetened chocolate chips, but like cacao, or some cacao powder to get that, like to make an actual chocolate kind of ice cream deal going on. I could go on about this forever. But what I'm trying to get at is, at that point, you're eating the whole foods. You're not eating something that's processed. So when you have processed calories that are loaded with sugars and things that your body might not be able to digest versus whole foods that you've blended yourself, your body's going to take those calories and convert them a little bit differently. Now, I don't do the whole science thing. I read a lot of it. You can probably actually see that back there, right? I read a lot of those scientific types of books, but I don't feel like you need to know the science to be able to eat and to know that one thing is healthier than the other, okay? So if you're going to calorie count, it's really important to keep in mind that not all calories are the same. Your body does process them differently. So this idea of calories in, calories out is important, but if your calories in are processed junk food, then those calories are going to count differently than the whole foods, the plant foods, and the way that your body processes those. So that's the first thing. The second thing when we talk about calorie counting is that it's really hard to actually correctly count how many calories you are getting. So let's say your goal is, I know a lot of women, myself included, when I was trying to lose weight and I was calorie counting, I was like around 1,000, maybe 1,200 calories per day. You're trying to hit that goal. Every single thing that you put in your mouth gets tracked. I know this because I did it. And the thing about that is that when you track every single bite that goes into your mouth and you think that you're tracking every single calorie, well, I can tell you, most of the time it says an apple, I believe, is 80 calories. It's been a long time. Or a large apple is like 120. And a medium banana, I think, is 90. I know oil is like 120 calories per tablespoon. So, you get to like all these different numbers in your head. But here's the thing, like, who says what a medium apple is? Or if you're weighing things out, then you've got a little bit more of an accuracy for it, but it's still not exact. Counting calories is not an exact science. You could be off at the end of the day by plus or minus 100, 200 calories, and you're tracking your exercise probably, not necessarily, but probably, and there's no, even if you've got one of these going on, which I love, don't get me wrong, but you've got one of those going on and you're tracking all of your exercise, well, it's only going to be so accurate with how many calories you're actually burning. It can give you an estimate. Like you put something in and you're like, oh, well, I walked for this amount of time and based on my height and weight, I probably burned about that many calories. But there's that probably to it. So the idea behind calorie counting is to not be perfect and exact. And I know that there are apps out there that get real specific about you have to hit your calorie intake, or oh, you've gone over your calorie intake. And that's where in my other video I talked about the obsession coming in with having to have exactly that number. So when we're talking about actually tracking calories, you want to keep in mind that not every item that you put in your tracker is going to actually be the amount of calories. You could eat an apple and say, well, it seems like a medium apple, so it must be 80 calories. But maybe it's actually a small one and you're not eating that many calories. Or maybe it's on the larger side, or because of the type of apple, because apple is kind of, vague when there are so many different varieties out there and the sugar content is different and the calorie count is fiber. Everything is going to be different if you get, say, one of my favorites is a Pink Lady versus, say, a Granny Smith. Those are very different, and they probably have a different profile as far as nutritional information. Not super different, but different enough that it makes a difference. So you want to keep that in mind. It's something that it's really important to keep in mind that you're not necessarily going to be tracking it accurately. The idea behind calorie counting is that it is an approximation. It gives you an idea. Okay, so if it gives you an idea of what you're doing, but not a full picture, the next obvious question is, well, why do people do it if it's not going to be accurate? So here's when you would want to use some form of calorie counting. First off, when you feel like it. That's really the big thing, is if you feel like you need to calorie count. But the second real reason that people need to consider, or why they do consider calorie counting, is because they've hit kind of a plateau with their weight loss, or maybe with their weight gain. I know there's a lot of people out there like, who needs to gain weight? There are a lot of people out there that need to gain weight, and they need to, this information also. So the best time to calorie count is when you've hit kind of a plateau. And I say this because when you hit your plateau and you're like, well, I eat the same and my exercise is the same, so why am I not losing anything? Or I've added this in, or I've taken that out. Something has shifted. Something's not really working. So you want to go ahead and possibly start calorie counting for like a week or two. You don't want to go overboard on it. It's not like you need to like go for like months with the calorie counting, but keep eating the way you are and calorie count and see, are you having too many calories maybe? Have you been allowing yourself to kind of be a little bit more relaxed because you got down to like a really good weight and you were really excited? You're like, I'm gonna loosen up a little bit and have some fun and allow myself maybe, that piece of really awesome vegan cheesecake. I say that because I have a great supplier here in Cleveland. If you're in Cleveland or anywhere in Ohio and you want some cheesecake, I've got the greatest cheesecake ever for you. And so anyway, so cheesecake, but so, you let yourself be a little bit looser and all of a sudden you realize that you've been off track for a while. So it's good to get an idea, just even to log it. You don't even need to calorie count at that point. You're just logging it. But I remember personally one time I had hit that point where I was like, well, what the heck is going on? I exercise really good. My food is really super awesome. We'll get back to that word super in a minute. My food was super awesome. My exercise was great. I was doing everything right. So I thought. And the reason I said I'm going to get back to that word super is because I was trying to eat every single superfood there was. My breakfast was a smoothie, and it was loaded with every single superfood that I could possibly fit. It was, and of course it started with like all kinds of, some fruit and some greens, but then I was putting in some maca and some cacao and hemp seeds and flax seeds and this and that. And don't get me wrong, those are all really great things. But by combining everything that I had together, I was like loading up my breakfast with like 500 or 600 calories. So I was starting my day off with like these like really high calories. And then I would have a pretty high calorie lunch and then come home and eat dinner. And I don't remember how much lunch and dinner was, but I was like horrified by the fact that I was eating between 500 and 600 calories in the morning just because I was trying to load up on all these superfoods. It wasn't making me any fuller. It wasn't doing anything, it was adding a little bit of nutrition, a little extra, but I didn't need all of those superfoods at once. And as soon as I realized that and started to scale back and got a little bit of that obsession under control, I will say that I get obsessed with like all kinds of things at different times. I had an obsession with superfoods. I had to get in all my superfoods. And I will talk about that and superfoods in another video. But I realized that I was loading all of those calories right up front, which is, not a bad thing necessarily to get in a good amount of calories when you eat your breakfast. But it was too many because then I was following it up with meals that were still fairly heavy on the calorie side. And I was not burning enough energy at that point in time. So what I ended up doing was tracking for about a week, maybe two. I realized that that was something that was consistent. I adjusted so that I knew that I was bringing my calories a little bit back under control, and the weight started falling off again. And I stopped calorie counting because I realized that I was having that extreme reaction to the superfoods and that I felt like I need to get them all in. Once I backed off on those, rotated them a little bit so that I was keeping the calories under control, I knew that I was good. So I let go of the calorie counting. So that's one time that you want to go ahead and calorie count. The other time would possibly be if you're starting to lose weight. And it's not for everyone when you're starting to lose weight. It's definitely, some people really should not start calorie counting when they start to lose weight, but other people really do benefit from it. And I have to say that as somebody who has been through lots of different programs, including Weight Watchers, I used to be able to tell you how much points were like in everything. As somebody who has been tracking for a long time, I can tell you that starting out, sometimes it is good, again, to have that baseline. So it's the same as if somebody who's maintaining, to get a baseline of what you know and what you are putting in your body. But the other part of that is you might actually want to track for a little bit longer if you're interested in calorie counting, because it gives you a good idea of what you're putting in your body. And I'm not just talking about food logs, and I love a food log. Like, I keep a food log, and I just take pictures of my food, and that's my food log. And to me, that's really helpful, because then I can go back and look and be like, okay, well, I was eating a bunch of this stuff. Last weekend I loaded up on macaroni and cheese, which I'm almost ready to put out the recipe on my blog. So look out for that. And if you want to get that a little bit early, you can go to my website, rachelruthenbach.com, and just sign up for my newsletter, and that recipe will be in your inbox in the next couple of weeks. But I loaded up on that because I was working on tweaking my recipe, and then it was a friend's birthday, so we had cheesecake, and this and that and the other. And, but I was like, oh, that's okay. And then I realized that I had been eating all of that. And so my weight went up. And I'm like, that's fine. I went back down. It was all good. But when you're at the beginning of trying to lose weight, you might be eating all of that stuff thinking, oh, well, I've switched my diet over. I'm doing this. I'm really healthy with that. And you might not see very many results, or you might see some results right away for the first couple of weeks and then nothing. And part of that might be because just because you've switched over to a new way of eating, and I'm going to talk whole food plant-based here because that's what I know, you switched to that. You went vegan. And there's a difference between whole food plant-based and vegan. I'm not going to get into that now, but there is a difference. But let's say that you're on the whole food plant-based side of all of that. You've switched your diet. You're eating lots of veggies, beans, grains, fruits, all of that stuff. And you're not losing weight. It's really helpful to keep that track of how many calories you're bringing in, because when you do that, you would get a better sense of what's causing you to possibly have too many calories. Or it may be that you realize that you're having, too much fat or too many carbs of an undesirable kind. Fruit carbs and whole grain carbs are perfectly fine, but if you're like exploding your body with carbs and not getting in enough fat, which I know a lot of people like 80-10-10, I know a lot of people are really into high carb, low fat, and that's fine. If that works for your body, then great. I'm not trying to knock it, because I do know a lot of people. I have some really good friends who are 80-10-10 and a few that are high carb, low fat, which is a little bit different, and it works great for them. So I'm not trying to knock that. But if you happen to be one of those people that don't do carbs well, like I can do a decent amount of fruit during the summer. I like the berries a little bit more, the lower sugar fruit for the most part, but I don't do a lot of grains personally. For me, it doesn't work well for my body. And so when you start calorie counting, you'll be like, okay, well, I see that I'm having a lot of carbs and I'm not losing any weight, so maybe I need to back off on the carbs. Or maybe I'm eating too many healthy fats, because everyone is afraid of fat. It seems like it's like the world is afraid of fat. And you shouldn't be afraid of healthy fats. You should eat them. But if you're eating like 2 avocados a day and some peanut butter and then a handful of nuts as a snack at some point, you're probably overloading on the healthy fats. So, and not only are you probably overloading on the healthy fats, but you're probably also increasing your calories a lot, because fat has 9 grams of calorie. Wait, 9 grams of fat per calorie. Something. It's a lot more. See, I remember the science, but it just doesn't come out very well. The point is that fat has a lot of calories to it. So if you're eating a lot of healthy fats, you're just still loading up on a lot of calories too. So with that being said, it's helpful to track to see where are you at with everything? What are you eating? How many calories are you intaking? If you were to adjust a little bit and maybe eat some more vegetables instead of some more nuts, instead of that snack with nuts, you switch it out with maybe some carrots. Gives you that crunch still, but you've swapped it out, because I know a lot of people go for the nuts because of that. If you're trying to give up sugar, that's a whole different thing, and we'll talk about that later, because nuts are great for giving up sugar. But then you do want to switch over to something like carrots because you want to get off of the high fats. So it's something along those lines where you need to make some swaps. And you can do that and still be nutritionally dense and lower your calories. So, you know, if you're one of those people that are like, but I eat all this great whole plant-based food, but my calories are like, but I'm not losing any weight, you know, and you start looking at your food and you calorie count and you're like, whoa, wow, I'm eating like 3,000 calories worth of, you know, plant food. It's a good way for you to keep track, to know what's going in your body. So that's why when you start out, it might be a good idea to start calorie counting. Here's when you shouldn't calorie count. You shouldn't calorie count when you get obsessed over it. You shouldn't calorie count if the calories that you see at the end of the day are going to make you worried. So, if you're one of those people that get to the end of the day of your calorie counting and you're like, I need to eat more food because it says I need to eat more, or I can't eat but I'm starving, and you don't eat and you're depriving yourself, then you need to quit that. Just stop. Just stop calorie counting. I used to be that person. I was a miserable person. I made my husband miserable. I don't think anybody else really knew, but he was miserable because I was miserable, because I would get to the end of the day going, I need to eat something, but I'm so full and I don't want anything. What can I eat that's high calorie to get my calories in for the day? It's like the stupidest thing ever. And I'm sorry if you do that, because I used to do that, and it's seriously like the stupidest thing ever. Because at the end of the day, you shouldn't be loading that many calories into your body anyway, because then you're going to sleep and you're not going to burn them off. And so you're not going to lose weight that way. And if you're full, listen to your body. Your body is telling you you don't need any more food. And the other way is true. If you get to the end of the day and you're like, I am like starving, if it's time to go to bed, get your butt in bed. But if it's like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening and you're like, you know, lying on the couch feeling like you're going to pass out or something because you haven't had any food in a while and you're hungry, please eat. You know, even if you're 100 or 2 calories over your goal already, eat something else. Your body obviously needs the fuel. Okay? So if you're that person, just quit it. Quit it. Just stop calorie counting. You'll feel so much freer. And if you've been calorie counting for that long, that you're that obsessed with it, I guarantee you that everything you put in your mouth, you're going to be like, this is this many calories, and this is this many calories, and this is this many calories. And you'll have like a fairly good idea of where you're at without having to like freak out about it as much. And then, as I said earlier, if you want to go back, do it, you know, but have a good sense of it. But get rid of it for now. If you're that person, get rid of it. Now, there's a lot of people out there that will say calorie counting is pointless. It's useless. Just eat whole foods and you'll be fine. No. That does not apply for everyone. I want to put that out there right now. There are a lot of us out there, myself included, who that does not necessarily work for. And as I was saying to the people who are obsessed with calorie counting, you need to quit it. You need people who don't think that there is any merit to calorie counting need to stop. I'm asking you a little bit firmly, but when people ask about calorie counting and you have a very firm opinion that it doesn't do any good, it doesn't do any good for you possibly, but it might do them a world of good. So don't negate the fact that some people do feel that they need to calorie count and some people do want to rely on that. I can almost guarantee that most of the people, not all, but most of the people who actually rely on it a large amount of the time are shorter women. As a short woman, knowing a lot of short women who do calorie count, I can tell you this. it is hard for us with the amount of food that is out there in the world, large amounts of food, lots of it's good. We want to eat everything, right? The world has become this hyper palatable place where food is always available to us. And as a short woman, we're not supposed to eat. I mean, like I said earlier, 1,000 to 1,200 calories. If you look at how much that is, if you're not eating plants only, that's a lot of calories that get like thrown out the window right away. You're like practically starving yourself. And if you're exercising and you're trying to do some muscle and strength work, you need to up that because you're not going to build any muscle that way. Side note, sorry. I'm getting into a lot of muscle and strength activities and everything, and I'm learning that I actually need to increase my calories in order to maintain that and to build the muscle, because your body won't build muscle if it doesn't feel like it's got enough coming in. But anyway, so back to the people who say that you shouldn't calorie count. If you are feeling like you need to calorie count because you are a short female and you've got all this food out there that you want to eat, but you're not losing any weight, it's very likely that you need to start keeping track. Again, for a little bit, not forever, because you probably are taking in a lot more food than you think that you should be. I mean, like, I sit there at the table when I eat dinner, and my husband's got like this big plate. He's got all this food in it, and he does the carbs and, avocado and all this stuff. And it's like this big plate, big plate. And I've got like this little plate of food because I can't eat that much. I shouldn't eat that much. And I get a little jealous because I really like food, like really like food. Like, I would love to stuff my face like pretty much all the time because I enjoy it. My stomach doesn't enjoy it when I eat too much, but I enjoy it. My taste buds really appreciate me when I eat food. So I get a little jealous that other people out there can eat more than I can eat. And it took me a really long time to realize that I needed to scale back. And the way that I did that was by calorie counting. I learned portion control. I learned how to adjust my fullness factor by calorie counting once I stopped being obsessed with it. But I learned that I don't need to put everything in my body. My body doesn't need as much as other people. So, if you feel the need to calorie count, go ahead, do it, and don't be obsessed. Those are two things. Do it and don't be obsessed. You got it? So, if you are calorie counting and you want to stop calorie counting, stop. It's that easy. It's absolutely that easy. You will find that it is a very freeing act to just get rid of the tracker. I've had my little Weight Watchers books. I deleted MyFitnessPal. That was great. It was great. Of course, when I went back to calorie counting, I just did it with my Fitbit app. But then I was just like, I'm done. I'm good. I did it for a couple weeks. I knew where I had gone off course, and I course corrected, and I didn't need to calorie count. I haven't calorie counted since. But I do take pictures. I like a food log. If you are a calorie counter and you want to stop because either you're obsessed with it or you just want to, you're done, you're kind of over it, you've been there, done that, but you feel like you shouldn't just freely eat whatever, or that you still have some weight to lose, but you're feeling like calorie counting isn't really doing it for you anymore, which is entirely possible. Take pictures of your food. I'm not trying to promote any apps. I just happen to use one. It's called YouFood. I don't get anything from them by mentioning it. I just happen to really like it. There's lots of great people on there, great communities on there. You don't have to be part of that. You can just use it to track your food. You could literally do just take pictures on your phone and keep them for yourself in like a file, or create a new album on your phone and stick them all in there so you know when you took pictures of what or whatever. Or just keep a food journal. You don't have to track the calories, just write down everything that you ate. And that way you have a good idea so that when you if your weight goes up, you can go back and be like, oh, well, of course, I was celebrating this, or I went out and had this, and okay, so I'm just needing to level it off, kind of back away from the heavier foods for a little while. Or, if you're somebody like most people, you have like some sort of health issue in your gut, you can go back and you can go, oh, okay, so that's why I'm not feeling good. So there is a lot of merit to keeping a food diary if you're one of those people that feels the need to keep track of, things for health reasons or for losing weight reasons. So that's pretty much it. I think I've covered everything. I just want to put it out there again that calorie counting is a personal thing. It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. Some people need it to get on track, some people need it to course correct. I like that a lot. Course correct. Just, if something's not working, course correct. You're going down that path and there's something in your way and it's not working anymore. You just course correct. Move on to the other way. So, do that. Course correct if you need to. But remember, it's your choice. And if you are one of those people that have like an all or nothing opinion on it, please, 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 if somebody is asking about calorie counting and wanting a little bit more information about it, please, please, please be kind to that person, because they may not need to calorie count, but if they're asking about it, they probably want a little bit more information and they're probably leaning towards doing it. And pushing one direction or the other onto them without giving any kind of background to it or why it may work for you or why it doesn't help them. And it doesn't help them if you force your opinion about it on them. So you really want to be kind and gentle, because a lot of people are trying to lose weight, or as I said, gain weight. It's entirely possible you're calorie counting to see how much you're intaking so that you can increase how much food you're eating, or your calorie count so that you can start gaining some weight. But be kind, because we're all out there trying to be the best that we can be. We're trying to have bodies that work, for us. We're trying to have the bodies that we want, that we love. And if someone is striving to do that, just try to remember to be kind. I believe that is it. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment below, or leave a question below, I suppose. And if you want to know more about calorie counting or be on my newsletter to get some awesome recipes, then go ahead and go to my website, rachelruthenbeck.com, and sign up, and I will get my newsletter out to you. And if you need any more information about anything that I've talked about, or you want to go ahead and work with me, shoot me an email, and I would love to set up a time. And that's it for today. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend if you have the weekend off. If not, when you get to your weekend, I hope that it is amazing. See you later.